4 o'clock in the afternoon here, at least for the rest of this week, unless things change, if the fire situation changes or the interest wanes because the fire is, becomes under more and more control, they begin to contain and control the fire. When Saturday comes, when Thursday and Friday come, if we're still doing the meetings, then we'll announce later whatever circumstances or changes we're going to do for the weekend. But for now, 4 o'clock in the afternoon here, and we'll bring you up to date on the latest information as we know it. I do need to let you know, and I probably said this before, that wildland fire in particular is a very dynamic animal. It changes from minute to minute, literally. And so things that are happening out there on a fire, especially a fire of this size, as things happen, the firefighters on the line really aren't as concerned about getting the information to the public as they are about putting the fire out and getting the resources they need. And so they focus on that. So there's a lot of stuff going on out there that we can only guess at or surmise. And so you need to understand that. So I'm going to try not to guess, but I know there's a lot of stuff going on. I know what the plan was this morning. Marty's going to talk about it a little bit. And he has some information on what's going on the line, but even as a deputy incident commander, he'll be the first to tell you that there are things that happen on the line that he doesn't know about, because people on the line have the authority to do things to put the fire out. They don't have to wait to get permission from the incident commander to do that kind of stuff. So things happen out there all the time. And he may not find out about it until briefing tonight, or until the crew comes in off the line tonight or tomorrow morning. Overall, though, he knows what's going on. He knows what the plan is. He knows what the strategy is. They advise him if there are major problems or situations that he needs to be aware of, or they're going to redirect resources. Before I forget, today we're being recorded for KVML, right? Yes. So especially when we get to the question and answer period, at the end of the meeting, if you talk and ask a question without the microphone being turned on, you won't be heard by us or by KVML or by whoever puts it up on YouTube later. So please make sure that you have a microphone and it's turned on before you ask the questions this afternoon. So we have some other people here this morning. I want to introduce them, and then I'll just let them go on from start to finish. Once I introduce them, I'll just let them go on down the line doing their thing. But first, let's see. Another little blurb. The Interfaith Community Social Service is the place to take donations of intact food, toiletry, and clean clothing items for all those affected by the RimFire. Therefore, I, and this is not me, this is Kathy Peacock, am inviting you to assist Interfaith as volunteers to receive, list resources, sort, prepare toiletry packets, etc. at Interfaith from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. If you would like to become part of the community support efforts by donating or volunteering, please contact Kathy Peacock at 532-0905. Thank you for considering this. Signed, Kathy Peacock. I don't know Kathy. Anybody know Kathy?
Yes.
Oh, good. All right. Cool. There are a lot of information on the table in the back. If you haven't picked up this stuff yesterday or on your way in today, there's a lot of good information back there. Pick it up. And if you have questions about it, come and ask us. After the presentation today, we'll stick around as long as we can. A lot of these people have other meetings to go to, but a lot of us will stick around as long as we can. So I'm going to introduce the panel we have today, and then I'm just going to hand the mic to the first one and let them go on to the next person instead of doing it some other way. But I think in the order we want to do it, I would like Dr. Stoltz first, because you have another appointment, right? Yeah. So Dr. Stoltz is the county health officer. Evan Royce is District 3 supervisor for this district in Tuolumne County. Fred Wong is the district ranger for the Mi-Wuk Ranger District. Scott Johnson is a sergeant from the sheriff's office who's in charge of your sergeant, right? I saw you look at your sleeve, isn't it? Thought maybe you got demoted. Who's in charge of the evacuation? And then, of course, you all remember Marty Bentley, without an R. Okay, I'm sorry. And Marty's here today, so somebody asked last night, this is cracking me up. Somebody asked yesterday, when Marty was here the first day, they asked him, how confident are you? You guys remember that question? I won't tell the story. Marty got a kick out of it when I told Marty the story. So let's do Dr. Stoltz first, and then if you would hand it to Marty, and let's get him up second, okay? Evan, did you want to say something to start with?
Take the
So here we go, Doctor.
Thank you, Chief. First, I want to thank Chief Crabtree for inviting me up and apologize for the fact that I'm going to have to step out. I'll stick around as long as I can. I'm here to talk a little bit about health issues. I understand at a recent meeting there were some questions about health, and I wanted to go over those and be available for questions. Number one, is everybody getting rest? I know everyone's nerves are a little on end right now, and one of the things we forget to do is just to take care of ourselves. So background, don't forget that simple message, just to take care of yourself, do your usual activities, take care of the little ones, take care of your neighbors, do the things that you normally do. That's number one. Number two is, of course, smoke. I got to tell you, at the evacuation center, I came out of the evacuation shelter this morning, and there was a person smoking a cigarette telling me how bad the air quality was. What? I didn't bring it up. I got a bit of but anyway, the air quality, as you know, is certainly a problem. We are doing excursions to look at visibility. And visibility, it turns out, is a very good measure of air quality. The particulates that float in the air, as far as the flames, are smaller than 2.5 microns. Sometimes they're a little bigger than that, but for the most part, the smoke that we're seeing is 2.5 microns in diameter, and that is small enough to get into your lungs. That's the stuff that won't filter out in your nose and your mouth, and that's why you feel kind of smoky when you cough and you get a little bit of mucus. That 2.5 micron particulate matter can be irritating at different levels based upon visibility. It turns out light wavelengths are about 0.7 microns, and so those particulates block light, and that's why visibility is a really good measure of how much of those particulates are in the air, okay? Two numbers I want you to remember. 5 miles. If you can see 5 miles or more, air quality's okay. Probably like Los Angeles most days, but if you can see 5 miles or more, it's okay to be out there. If you have respiratory problems, probably not something you want to be particularly active in, but if it's 5 miles or more, don't worry about it too much. If it's less than 5 miles and you do have respiratory conditions, it's a good idea to stay out of that air as much as you can. Don't plan on doing any jogging, don't plan on hanging out in your garden. Don't do your outdoor activities. Plan to do your indoor activities if visibility is less than 5 miles, okay? And you can look at a map and sort of pick a landmark somewhere around 5 miles away from your house and use that as your, not just today, but you can use this in the future. Hopefully we won't have to do that for many, 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 many years, but it's kind of nice to have that as a measure. The second number I want you to remember is 1 mile, all right? If visibility is less than 1 mile, and it gets like that in the mornings, doesn't it? You guys have seen that. When visibility is less than 1 mile, that's hazardous for anybody, especially young ones and the elderly, all right? So if you can't see a mile, that's something that you really shouldn't be out in, and it's because of that that the committee got together to decide, our air pollution control officer, the health officer, the fire personnel, and the school personnel, of course, got together to say, you know, it's best that we close the schools Monday and Tuesday this week. That was one of the reasons. Also, of course, was to get folks off the road so the fire personnel can do their jobs and move some of that equipment here and there that needs to be done. So that's why we did that. But the 1 mile rule was the real critical health issue that we raised. If it's less than a mile, and you have to be out of it, if your job's like these fellows and the people that they're working with, if your jobs require that you be out in air that has visibility of less than 1 mile, that's what these masks are for, okay? Now these masks are not for everybody. If you have a health condition, you really should check with your healthcare provider before using an N95 mask, all right? These N95 masks will remove 95% of the particulate matter that we're concerned about, 10 microns in diameter or less, okay? About 95% of them will be removed by this. But they're technically to be fit tested to be sure that they fit. And I see some fellows with some fuzzy stuff on their chins, and that sometimes will break up and seal, all right? So you can't guarantee it's going to work on everybody. That's why we fit test them for professionals. But you can use this N95 mask, and if you have to be out in it. But you should check if you have a respiratory condition, or you have a chronic lung condition, or a cardiovascular condition, check with your provider before using, because it can influence a little bit the way the oxygen moves, okay? I will leave some boxes in back for those who might find themselves in that situation. You don't really need it, and by the way, this isn't something that makes it okay to be outside in visibility of less than 1 mile. The smart thing to do is stay indoors, close your windows, and use your HVAC unit on recirculate, okay? Put it on recirculate, and your air quality indoors will be fine, okay? If you do that, especially then you open your windows and doors in the afternoon when visibility like it is now is greater than 15 miles, and you'll be just fine, okay? That makes sense? All right, so, but if you find that you need something like this, you're gonna have to be out in it. I will leave some masks back there. By the way, you can buy these. They should say NIOSH on them when you buy them, and N95. NIOSH tells you that they're officially certified, okay? There we go. I'm sorry, Martin, here we go. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Marty Bentley, Deputy IC for the Blue Team. Again, just want to make everybody aware that we're in unified command with CAL FIRE and the local resources too. So it's just not us. It's definitely a unified effort at what's going on out there on the ground. So what I'd like for you to do, I know everybody can't see this, but you'll hear it for sure. And then later on, we'll entertain more specific questions, but I'm going to work my way around the fire counterclockwise and give you a brief summary of what's going on the ground. And just exactly what the chief said is that this is the best information that I have right now. What's happening out there now is probably slightly different than what you're going to hear, but this is the most up-to-date information that I have, okay? So we're going to start here in Division Alpha and Bravo, just above the Pine Lakes subdivision, Pine Mountain Lakes. We got all this tied into the Tuolumne River, all the way down into Division S, and all of this is burnout and holding real well. It's been mopped up. We're very confident that that's going to hold. So no problems, no movement in the fire along those lines at all. So then we continue around to the south here, the southeast part of Division Romeo. That yesterday probably made the most movement yesterday. You've probably seen some significant smoke generated out of that area yesterday. We had to drop back and to a next contingency line. However, we got lines built back out to Highway 120. And again, we're confident that those lines, once we get those secured, that those will hold as well. So again, let's hope for the best there with weather conditions. It gets more problematic when we get up here in Division Q. Just a very limited amount of available control points. So we're in there now evaluating that. That's inside Yosemite National Park. So we're working on that. We're evaluating that. So then we move up a little bit further around the fire, and we get up here toward Lake Elsinore. And this fire again is continuing to move, but very confident this is moving up into the granite. It's going to run out of fuel, so we feel really good about what's going on there. Up here in Division Lima, all the way back around through Foxtrot and Echo, we're experiencing some movement in the fire right now. Looking for control lines up here on Division Lima, establishing those. And when I mention all this, we have firefighters operating in all parts of the fire. So efforts are going on in all parts of the fire. So we're putting in some lines up here. Had some questions about the helicopter activity. So we have some movement up here in the clay drainage right now. So we're really concentrating some effort on that right now. The good news is I'm going to drop back down to Division and Echo and talk about that all at once. is that last night and early this morning, we pinched off this down in Division Delta. So on the north side of the Tuolumne River, that is now lined and under control right now. So we have a very, very solid anchor point here on this corner. We've tied that off all the way around to the division break in Delta up near Duckwall Mountain, but we've had to drop back up here in Division Echo. We've had some movement in here. We were going to try to burn this out. I think there was, you've heard some information that we were going to do some burning around Duckwall. Well, we didn't get to that because we're building containment line in other places, but that line is still there and still holding. So that's the current status of the fire. And when we come to the question and answer period, I'll be glad to answer more specific questions about anything else that you have, but we feel really good about continuing to pinch this off and keeping this fire corralled in a northeasterly direction. So, thank you. Very good. The chief wanted me to talk about the contingency lines. They are just about all but complete, which is really, really good news. There's one drainage. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of it, but we're moving equipment. I heard on the radio just all the way from Long Barn all the way down to Tuolumne. That whole line is complete, the last information that I had. There's one short section that the dozers couldn't get through, and they're moving excavators and masticators in there now to complete that section line. So when that gets done, we'll have that entire line complete and in place, okay?
Good afternoon. A quick update. Right before I was leaving to come up here, we went into an evacuation advisory for the rest of the Highway 108 corridor from Coffle Road up to Pinecrest on the south side. So nothing really for you folks has been upgraded. We were in the previous evacuation advisory. It's just hit one of those decision points that our command staff feels that we need to make that advisory. So we are, when you hear the entire Highway 108 corridor, now that includes up to Pinecrest. I won't bore you with what we've been going through the last couple of days, but I want to remind you that animal control is available to take your animals, ready, willing, and able, Tuolumne County Transit. If you want to evacuate, you don't have transportation, they'll come get you. And the last thing is, please, if you are thinking that you don't want to evacuate because you're concerned with the security of your home, that's one area I can tell you you're in pretty good shape. We currently have 60 OES out of area law enforcement up here, not counting 14 CHP that came up to assist us. And we have at least 10 two-man units in the corridor 24 hours a day, okay? 24 hours a day. So the one area I can say you're pretty secure is in your law enforcement protection when you're away from your home. And at that, I'll leave it to that until the question and answer period.
Does the upgraded evacuation include Pinecrest?
Yes, it includes Pinecrest.
Yeah, first of all, I'd just like to thank Chief Crabtree for inviting me here, and also Pat for, where's Pat? For helping host this area here. As Chief Crabtree said, I'm the acting district ranger for the Mi-Wuk Ranger District, and I've only been here for about a month and a half now, but so this is a really interesting experience for me. But you know, in the month and a half that I've been here, you know, I've really grown fond of this area, this forest, Stanislaus. I'm originally from the Tonto National Forest detailing in, and you know, I could say that you know, I live in this community. A lot of the Stanislaus National Forest employees also live in this community in Twain Harte, and you know, it's heartbreaking for us to see what's happening to this community and to our forest. You know, we feel your pain, and I understand your anxiety as well. But I want to commend, Marty's team as well as the other folks that are helping managing this fire. They are doing a fantastic job. Stanislaus National Forest is actively playing a role in that. Although there is a unified command, we are contributing to providing knowledge, local knowledge to the team. I know just today we went down there and we talked to the blue team's ops people. We said, a lot of the staff of this Mi-Wuk Ranger District was saying, hey, wait a minute, there's an area right here, there's a bunch of cabins over here, you need to be careful of that. So they took that into a note and kind of put that on the map as well. And we've done that for a lot of different areas as well, as we've been telling them where to get water sources. So we are, the Stanislaus National Forest, the Mi-Wuk Ranger District, and the rest of the ranger districts are embedded in that team to help provide local knowledge to them, to try to help mitigate some of the impacts of this fire. I've been keeping in contact with a lot of my staff. A lot of my fire staff have been embedded in the different divisions, and they've been reporting into me. And I can tell you, I know it's been frustrating sometimes to get some of the information from the field. I understand that we have trouble ourselves getting that information, but I can assure you that we are doing Marty's team and all the other firefighters are doing everything they can to stop the spread of this fire. Yesterday they were telling me at Paper Cabin Ridge, about 7 acres of fire slopped over, but they were able to catch that. This morning another fire person on my district was telling me that on Duckwall Ridge, that some fire spotted over some dozers line, but they were able to pick that up as well. So rest assured, we are doing everything, and Marty's team and the others are doing everything they can to try to stop the spread of this fire. So. But I wanted to thank you all for coming out, and I may not have all the information, but we will try to get the information out to you as soon as we can. So thank you for your time. Right now we have a forest closure that is actually on the InstaWeb site if you look at it, but basically it's kind of south of 108. It's a big chunk of the Mi-Wuk Ranger District, but if you want to look on the map, it's on the InstaWeb for more details. Thanks.
I want to do a couple things, and I'm going to let Supervisor Royce close the presentation before we go to questions and answers. First of all, I want to thank those bulldozer operators and their division group supervisors. Who put this contingency line in beneath our community overnight. I mean, they did tremendous work. I saw them starting last night just before dark, and it's just amazing that they were able to complete that the way they did. And I haven't actually looked at it, but I know it's a really wide line because I know I counted at least 9 bulldozers working in tandem, and I suspect there's some I don't know about. So it's just, I'm totally amazed by the amount of work they were able to accomplish overnight. They were working while we were sleeping. Forest closure, embedded members, you talked about contingency line. Oh, the strike teams of engines. You've seen engine after engine after engine driving up and down the highway and in and out of your driveways. We were hoping to have their division group supervisor here to talk to us today. He obviously got involved doing something more important, which is probably a good thing that he has priorities and he sets them up. It might be your house he's looking at right now. Part of what they're doing is they're identifying, not only are they getting familiar with the area that they're in, but they're identifying things that will help them in case of an emergency that they need a specific thing. They're making sure they know where the fire hydrants are. You see flags on trees. Every flag I've seen is next to a fire hydrant. I'm not sure what their rules are, but I suspect that those flags you see dangling from trees is telling them, here's a water source. Whether it's a fire hydrant, a swimming pool in a backyard, the dog pond down in Sugar Pine, whatever it is, they're identifying areas where they can get water. They're identifying roads where they can't get a fire engine up, so they have to make some other sort of a plan. They're identifying roads that are difficult to get to. They're making sure they know where all the roads are. They've been coming by our fire station here in Mi-Wuk Sugar Pine all day long, yesterday also, getting copies of maps, making sure they have a copy of the latest map, that the one they have is an accurate map. We're identifying local landmarks to them. You all know where the Mi-Wuk Triangle is, right? It's not on any map. So we are identifying those sorts of landmarks so that they know what we're talking about when we call. So that's the kind of thing that you'll see them doing. They're going to do it all day long. They're working 24-hour shifts. They'll be here all night. Tomorrow morning, they'll get up, they'll go back into camp, and you'll see probably the same engines that you saw yesterday come out tomorrow morning, because to the extent they can, they try to keep it consistent so that the people on the ground don't have to relearn. That's not always possible because, like I said, fire's a dynamic animal. So they may have to shift those resources somewhere else. But to the extent they can, they like to keep the same resources on the same area. And that includes not only here, but also on the fire line. They like to send the same resources out because they were there the day before. They know the line, they know the area. Telephone numbers. Can we put the numbers up, Bob? Make sure if you don't already have it that you pick up one of those papers on your way out in the back. There are a lot of telephone numbers. The only two that I really want you to know about is the fire information number, which is on the other, no, it's on that one right there. And then the evacuation information number, 533-5174. All of the rest of those, if you don't know them, all you have to do is call 533-5174, and they can give you any of those other numbers. So those are the only two you really need to know, are the first two on that list, which are also on the other one. Also, again, KBML. Can't get that radio station up here, but you can get KKBN. Listen to that one. Pay attention to that one. And the other FM station, somebody help me out here.
It's on the board.
Okay. Thank you. And then the internet. Don't forget the internet. The InsaWeb.org is the official internet. It's sometimes behind at times, and sometimes it does get false information like anything else on the internet. If you see something that's suspicious, that you think might be wrong or exciting or false, give me a call. We'll run the information down to the information center. If it's inaccurate, they get it corrected right away. But InsaWeb.org is a good one. The fs.usda.gov/Stanislaus, you can get there. MyMotherLode.com, they stay on top of things also. And then the Mi-Wuk Homeowners Association, the MAHA blog, which is Mi-Wuk Area Homeowners ASSN.blogspot.com. So if you find that, make sure you bookmark it. I'm going to let Evan, Supervisor Royce, close us out, and then we'll do questions and answers like before. Thanks.
Thanks, Larry. Hi, guys. I've already talked to you before, and I'm not one of the technical experts, so I'll just share a little bit about what I've seen today and what I'm observing as a representative of you. This morning, I got the opportunity for the first time to head up to the incident command that's up above Groveland, and I can't tell you how impressive it is what has been put together to fight this fire, and that's only one part. I've also been through the Tuolumne kind of, I don't want to say station, but it's kind of a base or whatever. But you have an army of I think the last number I heard was 3,700 people working on this fire, and just imagine 3,700 people. I mean, it is mind blowing, and I got to see that part. They are up at the crack of dawn. You have people that are covered in dirt from head to toe and ash. They're breathing the stuff and sweat, and they're blistered and tired, and I can't tell you how cheerful they were this morning. It starts out with a guy, big old guy with a big mustache, and he's playing his cell phone into a microphone, waking everybody up, and they're all up there, and they go through this line of people, kind of like what we're doing here, and there's such a camaraderie, and it's really emotional when you think about how many people have come together to work towards one common cause. And these people really do have passion for what they do. The county people that are working at the OES station are doing a marvelous job. And I can't tell you how proud I am of them. I worked with these people for the last 2.5 years as a board supervisor person. And the way that they've stepped up, I mean, they're down there every hour through the day. They're working together. And today our governor was here, the head of OES for the state of California was here, you had the National Guard General was here in Tuolumne City. And, I mean, that's, you know, see Jerry Brown walking through Memorial Park, it's like, I'm in a dream or something, you know, I shook his hand. There's news, you know, cameras everywhere, but, I am feeling better after, you know, a couple days of this, being displaced, being tired, stressed out, and worried about, you know, my friends and family and people and their animals, being responsible for a community. It's tiring, but these people give me hope. The people that are working here give me confidence. I feel good about the efforts that are taking place. I mean, if you look at this, the intelligence, the technology, the resources that are being applied to this is absolutely amazing. And thank you for being informed. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share information. We want to keep you up to date, and I will continue to do that to the best of my ability and work with people. Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for questions and answers. Remember, this is being recorded, so you have to have a microphone that's turned on before you can ask a question, and then we'll find somebody who knows something about it to answer it for you. Who's got a question? Raise your hand if you would like to ask a question and get a microphone.
Quick question. I know that we keep getting updates on the acreage. Is there any way to get an idea of the circumference of this thing?
That's a Marty question.
Yeah, we could do that, but it'd be inaccurate in a very short amount of time. You know, I haven't, that is a very interesting question, and you just want to know the miles of fire line around that? How about, we'll get that to you tomorrow. How about that? Okay? That's a good question.
I want to know, is there a place online to get this map?
Bob, did you get this offline? Did you get this off mymotherload.com? The answer is yes, we just have to figure out where. InsaWeb, is it on InsaWeb? Okay, this one we think is available on insaweb.org.
My question goes back to our phone numbers, and I tried to call the fire number, the 805, and yesterday, and it said, please leave a message, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Then it said the voicemail box was full. Is there so I used the 533 number, there was a body there, and they were wonderful to help me. But maybe we could do a little better there.
I'm told that the phones actually went down for a while at the ICP, so that might have had something to do with it.
I want to add one thing also. Yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, there was questions about the reverse 911 calls, and Comcast customers were not being contacted. Before I came up here, right before I left the OES station, or UOS, or whatever it is, that strike report, the ambulance station, Daniel Richardson, County Administrator's Office, showed me a contract that was just being signed with Comcast. We had to pay some kind of a fee, but they were able to resolve that problem, so that should not be an issue. So if anybody does have an issue in the future, if there are additional evacuation protocols in place and you don't get contacted, please let us know through that line so that we can deal with it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to emphasize that right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but right now the advisory evacuation is only for the south side of 108. Okay, and don't rely on just the radio to get your evacuation information. Don't rely on just mymotherload.com, and don't rely on just the reverse 911. Heads up, pay attention to everything, listen to them all, and as I've said in every single meeting, talk to your neighbors. This is, if nothing else, a community of neighbors. So talk to your neighbors. Don't rely on any single source for your information, but heads up, pay attention to all the sources.
Yeah, that reverse 911 is just one component of our evacuation procedure. Okay, we have reverse 911, we have KVML, we have neighbors, we have law enforcement or fire service going through your neighborhoods. But again, it's kind of a common sense thing. We usually do things in the world of crime and law enforcement. If my neighbor in Tuolumne City was getting burglarized, and then my neighbor in Sugar Pine was getting burglarized, and then now I live in Mi-Wuk, it would tell me that that burglar is coming up the hill, and I would take precautions and lock my door. You have to do the same thing in a fire situation. The Tuolumne City advisory goes up, and we start doing orders or heighten that advisory up the hill. It's time for you to start thinking about the Mi-Wuk area too, of getting a little more prepared or even leaving. Okay? So you have to play a role in this evacuation process just like we did.
Hi, I just want to thank all of you so much for being here, the 37 men and women that are fighting for us. So you're doing so much for us, and I'm wondering if there's something that I or we can do for you.
No,
If you could just continue the cooperation we've been getting, I talked to the highway patrol at the checkpoints, I talked to the firefighters, I talked to our patrol staff, our OES guys, and in 8 days now, I haven't heard one complaint about a citizen in Tuolumne County, and that's a credit to all of you.
I know a lot of people would like to buy dinner for the firefighters, and they would like to bring water to the firefighters, they would like to do a lot of things for the firefighters. I have to tell you that the firefighters, when they show up here, they're self-contained. They're ready to go for at least 24 hours. When they leave the incident base or the fire camp and hit the line, they're ready to go for 24 hours. They don't really need anything. They come with energy bars, they come with water, they come with apples, they come with everything they need, including a fire engine, usually. But there are things you can do. Some of the businesses have opened up their doors with coffee and water and air-conditioned bathrooms. An air-conditioned bathroom is much nicer than a porta potty on the side of the highway with the fire trucks going by. So there are some things you can do, but really in reality, as far as the very basic needs of the firefighter, they come self-contained. They really do. Next question.
Yes, what is a contingency line and what do they do for us?
That's a Marty question.
Okay, the contingency line that we have constructed is really what we consider our last available stand before it impacts the communities here. So don't think that this is our next step. We continue to direct attack the fire as it moves. If it spots over and we have to drop back again, we will continue and continue and continue to construct control lines the best we can to control it and stop it where we need to. But if we get to a point to where there's no other available control lines and that last effort has failed, we have this fallback plan. That's the contingency plan. So we're really, really happy that we have this in place right now.
How big are they?
Excuse me?
How big are they?
How big are the contingency lines?
Yes.
Okay, they're probably, they vary in size depending on the topography, but they can be up to 3 to 4 bulldozer blade widths wide. So it's a substantial line. It's a substantial line. Yeah.
Yes, there was some description about the firefighters tagging areas by the fire hydrants and so on. I've been getting some feedback from friends and family about some urban myths on the internet and so on, that these flags are pick and choose who they're going to take care of first. Can that be clarified one more time so that everybody in the radio community will know that they're not being pick and choosy? Thank you.
Yep, I will address that, and that is a myth. That is an urban legend, I guess. So what those flags mean is that firefighters have been in there and they just orient themselves. They're getting some situational awareness, and a lot of times a strike team of engines will go into an area And so there's several engines operating in the same location, and if you send 2 engines down a road, and one goes and looks at an area and looks at it, familiarizes themselves with it, they don't need another engine doing the very same thing. So they're tagging it so we're not duplicating efforts and trying to be more efficient so we can cover more ground.
One question, how far is the fire, I know we get a lot of smoke coming in from Long Barn, and how far is the fire from Mi-Wuk, Sugarpine, and Sierra Village?
Okay, let me, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm gonna say, just as an estimate, 6 miles. It's 6 miles from the fire front now to this corridor of communities.
Is Foxtrot and Delta and all that, is that somewhere, or is that a code, or I'm trying to get my logistics?
Okay. So you're referring to our divisions and how we this is how we organize it with 3,700 people and pieces of apparatus that are scattered around this. We have to break it up into segments, if you will, and they're geographic segments. So we break it up and we assign certain resources to a division, is what we call those. And so if we say these strike team of engines go to Division Echo, it's on a map and they know exactly where to go. So, and they know who to report to. We produce an incident action plan every day, and all that whole chain of command is outlined in there and their instructions for the day. Yeah.
Thank you.
I live on top of Lyons Reservoir. Excuse me, in the last hour, they've been dipping out of there. I just wondered where this fire is, or last night I heard they were dipping for a spot fire behind Long Barn. Is that true?
There is no spot fire near Long Barn at this moment. So these helicopters, you got to understand, sometimes we will have up to 6, 8, 10 helicopters operating in the same space. So we try to take advantage of the closest dip site and water source, but with that many helicopters, a lot of times we'll have to send them to a different location. So where they're dipping from doesn't necessarily mean that the fire is close to there. A lot of times we'll have to divert them instead of waiting in line to dip out of the closest resource. It's just as fast for them to go to a further dip site and keep that water flow going. Okay. No.
I was just curious, do you have reconnaissance planes that go around and check where there's spot fires? I mean, how would you know that there's a spot fire, say in the middle of the night or something, way up in one of the outer areas?
Okay, I can address that in 2 ways, and I'll do it day and night. During the day, we have a fixed wing platform that's called air attack, and they essentially burn donuts in the sky above this fire, and so they make loops around there, and they're constantly monitoring the fire's edge, and they also help direct resources to the most critical point that's needed. If there is a spot fire and there's some potential, they can spot it first, and they direct resources to get in there and get that spot fire controlled. At night, every night, we have a plane that flies over and does an infrared scan of this entire fire, and that's produced for us for the early morning briefings. And we can look at that and see if there are any spot fires that haven't been picked up earlier, and those will show up on those infrared maps where we can, again, check them and concentrate our efforts on those areas. Yeah.
I'd like to add something to that. But first of all, I laughed when the gentleman asked the question about Foxtrot and Echo. I was not laughing at you, I was laughing because we speak this language and we so frequently forget that we speak a foreign language. So, excellent question, thank you for asking it. But as far as the air attack goes, the other thing that I think you need to understand is that the air attack and all of the groups that work for it are also part of the major incident. They're part of the briefing in the morning. They get a briefing separate from, because they're over at the air attack base, but they're part of this plan. This is an incident action plan. They know what actions are planned for the day. They know what parts of the fire the IC has identified as problem areas. They know what parts of the fire they plan to do burning operations on. And so as they're doing their regular, what do you say, spinning donuts in the sky, they're also looking at those particular sections of line in particular to make sure that those areas that we already know are problem areas are getting extra scrutiny. So they're part of it, they know what the plan is, and they're watching, and they are part of the plan. It's not a disjointed effort. It's very much a coordinated effort.
The latest containment number, I heard it's 15%. Is that still valid? And so can you show us on the map where that 15% is?
Sure can, and that is correct. And how these colors are not by accident. When you come up here and you can look at this after the meeting here, but all the red is active fire edge. It's uncontrolled, and once we have it controlled to a point that we are reasonably sure that it won't escape, we turn it black. So as we continue to, you can see there's a black line right here, but a red piece in between. I expect to see this red turn black very shortly, if not in the morning, very, very soon. So that's the actual containment that you see on the perimeter of the fire. Okay?
I don't mean to change the subject just a hair, but if we back it up a little ways, all of us Comcast paying customers, Comcast during this time of need is charging us extra to be able to get a phone call and tell us that evacuation or any sort of thing like that. Is that true?
I don't know the full story behind it. I know it was an issue, and I know there was something like that. It irritated me as well, just thinking, you know, the initial kind of what that looks like. But I do know I don't want to just blame Comcast because I don't know the full background. I don't know if it's because they've upgraded their system and things have turned over, or it's because with our system we're requesting them to do. I don't know, but I don't care as long as it gets done, and that's what matters at this point. And then in the future we can worry about that. You know, relatively, when you look at, I don't know, I saw a number like $20 million has been spent, and that's probably a lot smaller than what it really is because it hasn't all been accounted for. That's a small fraction compared to the big picture. But
we hear about that reverse 911 and landlines. What about cell phones? Can they be made to work?
I guess I'll deliver the bad news. Cell phones cannot be programmed in the current reverse 911 system. It's about a 3-week process to do that, to get cell phones in. I don't understand the whole IT technical part of it and mapping and everything else. I asked that very specific question this morning at our briefing, and I was told that right now it can't be done with our current 911 system. But I think shortly, in a few weeks, Supervisor Royce, correct me if I'm wrong, we will be going up on a website, county website, where you can be alerted to different information in the county, and that's a few weeks. So this is a learning process for us too. We're learning what works, what doesn't work, what worked in training but hasn't worked in the actual fire. So we're developing protocols and ways of doing things out of this fire too. So we're all in this together.
I was looking at this earlier, when I first came in here, and I noticed that in bold letters is a branch 1, branch 2, branch 3, and branch 4 now. Is this like major command points, or where they?
Yep, that it is a command structure. Branches are. When an incident gets this size, you can imagine how many pieces of the puzzle can any one person mentally be in control of. So when you get too many divisions in one area, we branch that off because our span of control is about 5 to 7. We said to reasonably do a good job, especially with a high intensity environment that we're operating in. 5 to 7 people or pieces of equipment is about what one person can direct and really have an effect on. So when it gets too big like this, we just branch it and we put another layer of supervision in there. So what would happen is a branch would be over 5 to 7 divisions, and divisions would be over 5 to 7 strike teams and so on and so forth as it goes down. Yeah.
That's why when you think of a strike team of engines, it's five fire engines and a strike team leader, because that's really the span of control that we're talking about.
I have a couple of things. On that reverse 911 call, I have AT&T. I haven't received any of those. Do those kick in at a higher level of warning?
I think we're putting too much emphasis on that reverse 911. It's a computer system, like any computer system. It has glitches, it has errors. It's one of those things, if phone lines go down, phone service is interrupted, power lines go down, there's power surges, any number of things will disrupt that reverse 911. If I was living in an evacuation advisement area, that reverse 911 would probably be the lowest of my level of information that I would want. I'd probably go with news and radio and the law enforcement in the area and just being cognizant of what's happening up the line.
I have is the public access television channel that Comcast does have. Can't they get information going on that on a routine basis?
That's a good idea. I haven't even thought of that, but that's something I could take back to our nightly briefing and look into that. That's a very, very good idea.
Can you give the microphone to Heather? If you're on the answer on that cover.
Other than I'll just pass it along when I get back up to the IC camp. The other thing I wanted to say is that I've only been here for 2 days, and the lines are failing quite readily at the incident command. So your frustration is mine. I've been trying to call them as well, so I am passing that along too. But there's not much they can do other than to have the companies responsible for those communication towers working on that. So that is a great idea for that public access, and I will pass it on. Oh, my name is Pepper Baltimore, and I'm here from Arizona, and I've been through the same thing, evacuated myself during a fire, so my heart goes out to you, so thank you.
And I apologize for not introducing Pepper earlier. She's a public information officer assigned to the incident management team. And I couldn't convince her to sit up front with the rest of us.
You know, I have the same question. I don't always have internet service at the house, and I don't have radio, and I was wondering the same thing about the Channel 8. And I'm the one that called in this morning and recommended it, if you want to know. Anyway, but I think the Channel 8, if they could see the ticket drawn on the bottom, ticket tape or something, just to get the information out. Thank you.
Well, Pepper, I think you indicated you're going to take that information back and look into the possibility of that.
How far away from Twain Yard is the fire right now?
A rough estimate would be, again, probably, it's about the same for this whole complex of communities, a little closer to 12 maybe, but we're looking at 5 to 7 miles, probably.
I have dogs, and I can't get into shelters. How can I do what about my dogs and the shelters?
You have dogs you can't get to the shelters? Tuolumne County Transit will come up and take you and the dogs. If you want to evacuate to a shelter at fairgrounds, they'll take dogs. They just ask that you bring a travel crate. A caregiver? Well, if you and the person you caregiver for want to go down to Tuolumne County Transit, they'll give you both, right? If it's special needs, we can set that up. Whatever you need, if it's somebody, you need help getting that person into the transportation, we provide that, or Tuolumne County Transit does. We will take the animals. They can go to the shelter if you have crates for them. If not, we can shelter those animals in place at our animal control. They don't keep them, you get them back as soon as the crisis is over. But we'll work with you in anything you need to get you out of the area if you want.
If you have questions of that nature that don't get answered today, call that evacuation information number 533-5174, and they will, you can get the information and telephone numbers you need for that.
Hey, Marty from Tennessee, how you doing? Hey, I read the NOAA website today, and they said some thunderstorms from the, not thunderstorms, but from that tropical storm coming up, and we may have some high winds tomorrow in the southern part of Tuolumne County. And you said you had a NOAA guy, woman, meteorologist on staff. I mean, what are you gonna do about that?
Okay. First, you gotta talk to the right person, and they're, yeah, you know what I mean. So, so we do have a NOAA weather meteorologist on staff. They're called an IMET, an incident meteorologist. And so they're looking at, that's their whole job, is to analyze and look at the weather. And as good as the stuff on the Weather Channel is, they're better. So every day that IEP is produced, we not only give detailed information of wind direction, humidity, temperatures in the valley, on the slopes, the whole bit. He gives us the whole spectrum of detailed weather information, and he gives a short snap of the forecast as well. So what you've heard is not impacting this fire just yet. So pretty much right now the forecast is about the same as what we're seeing out there now, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. We don't want any wind. Pray for no wind.
Everybody talks about the weather, nobody does anything about it. The weather forecast that the incident command team deals with is not only today's forecast, but they also have long range portions of it. So they're looking out they're looking out 2, 3, 4 days a week in advance, planning their actions long-term, long range. So it's very detailed about what's projected in the next 24 hours, next 12 hours, what's gonna happen at night, what's gonna happen tomorrow when the sun hits. Very, very detailed, 2 pages worth, with a lot of abbreviations and acronyms. Which, if they were expanded, would probably make it turn into about a 4-page document. But it also includes what they call long range, which is 5 days and longer sometimes. So they're looking out long range. Not much they can do about the weather, but they can plan their actions based on what they think the weather's going to do or what the weather's predicted to do. And it's very site specific. It's spot specific. On a fire this size, I suspect they're probably getting predictions from, I know they are. They're getting predictions in the lower elevations that are different from the predictions in the upper elevations on the fire. So that's very, very site specific. It's not just, well, in Northern California, we're going to have thunderclouds. It's specific to elevations and aspects.
I guess I'm next. I live in Sierra Village, and they work all night building backfires down below me behind the church property. Are they going to do any backfiring down there or anywhere near that Sierra Village, Mi-Wuk area?
That's the contingency line they put in the shaded. At this time, there are no plans to do any firing operations there whatsoever. You heard the gozers running all night long. Yes, that's a comforting sound.
Hey, when your pilots are up there spinning donuts, why not have them take a few pictures and get them to the Union Democrat for us to see?
If he did, I suspect the answer to that is if he did, they do take pictures. They take pictures mostly for the incident command team for planning and documentation purposes. But if they started to give it to the Union Democrat, then the Sacramento Bee would want it, and the Modesto Bee, and pretty soon, they'd be picking and choosing which ones. So. And I also want to point out that that's a good idea. I'll send that along. When we're flying, when there's a fire in a place like this, and there's aircraft in the fire, they put aircraft restrictions. The FAA puts an aircraft restriction on the area, and all non-fire aircraft are restricted from flying into the area But news media can fly in. They have to check in with the air attack, and then they will be assigned, just like an air traffic controller, they will be assigned a traffic pattern, a location to fly, and an altitude to fly at. So they can come in and take pictures, but they have to check in with the air attack coordinator to begin with so that there's no mid-air collisions. So they could send up their own airplane and take pictures, is my point.
I know you're not into conjecture here, but on that fire line, that northern line, do you have any level of confidence? Is that radical in there, or is it kind of holding its own and not having a lot of movement to the north?
Okay, I guess I'm gonna ask for a little bit more specificity about the area you're referring to.
We're above Mi-Wuk, let's say, like from Sierra Village on up to Long Barn, right in there.
Up in here.
Yeah.
So the tactic now is we have this line constructed and we're continuing on. This line is already constructed again. And so we're kind of, since we got this, you can, very strong confidence, paint this black right here, down here. So you can see when we get this contained, this is in, and when we get that burn out, when we can focus our efforts on burning that out, you can see what the tactic is keep pinching this off and herding it up this way to where there's very little threat to these communities. So that's.
So you feel pretty good about that northern line, like that's controllable?
I do feel good, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Two more questions.
At about 3:30 today, we were in Sugar Pine looking down the North Fork. We were watching convoys of helicopters circling Mount Lewis. Looked like they were dropping water behind it, or maybe further behind it, it seemed. And we were also seeing fire on Duckwall, below the peak and a little bit to the east of the peak. You know what that's about?
Yep, that's the fire that we said that's moving in this area. We know about that. It has moved north of the Cottonwood Road, and we have some spot fires going in there, so we're trying to pinch that off again, and again, still working this bigger, broader plan that I had referred to, but in the meantime, again, we never let our guard down on attacking the fire right where it's at. If it's safe and we can get in there and minimize the size, that is the overall tactic that we're using right now. So we've got to get those helicopters in there dropping water so that it cools it down sufficiently, makes it safe enough so we can get ground resources in there. Helicopters and water don't put out the fire, firefighters do. Yep.
Any more questions? Okay. With this, we'll close it. The pastor wants to say a little prayer for the firefighters. So those of you that would, if you want, you can stand up and be excused. You can stretch your legs, come back in a couple minutes if you'd like, because we will hang around and answer questions after the prayer. So we'll take a short break and give some of us a chance to leave.
Once again, we want to thank the chief. Put your hands together for Chief Crabtree. Great job. Chief, I'll just speak in the future of that one, the Chief Crabtree, and all these great gentlemen and ladies who are here. Thank you very much for your great job protecting our colony, our staff. Those who would like to join me as we pray, please feel free to do so. Father, in the name of Jesus, thank you. We ask for continued protection for these men and women that are protecting us. We pray for health and safety for them and their equipment. We pray for safety for each of the community leaders as well as each member of our community, for our loved ones and our livestock and our animals, Lord, for our families in every aspect, Lord. We ask your blessing in the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Thank you all very much.